Connection once again, where we bring people to you, all those people who are working on grounds. I always say this because that is the key, right? So this is Isha here, and today I have two lovely ladies with me. You must have actually heard them on our on our show on Radio Zindagi, which was Jaagte Raho, with Rewire Community, and they've been doing such amazing work. Very quietly, they've been actually doing so much for the community. Now, they took some great causes. They actually talked about social issues. They brought up so many issues where people were not even talking about it. And the great thing is they actually brought up some personalities, and they were interacting with them, which actually made sure that not only them, but there are communities who wants to work towards these greater causes. And what I like about this show, Jaagte Raho, was you would actually gain out of it. When you actually listen to them, you would know, oh, they're going in some direction where you actually want to go and reach there. So lots going on in the show, and today obviously I had to talk to them because like I said, they've been doing great work to educate, to eradicate social evils like domestic violence or gender bias or climate change and just about everything, and that needed our attention. So we had to bring both of them to this lovely show called Human Connection. So I have with me Salini and Yamini. So Salini is a domestic violence advocate and community organizer. She has worked with underrepresented communities in India, US, Nepal, Kenya, and against sexual violence, domestic violence, child sexual abuse. And Sharma is currently a volunteer with Rewire Community and is co-leading their survival relief efforts through COVID-19 pandemic. And talking about Yamini, Yamini is the co-founder and board president of Rewire Community and the director of global responsibility and sustainability in a multinational company as well. She's a fierce advocate for gender and environmental justice and seeks to create empathetic spaces for dialogue and action around equality, human rights, and climate, the nexus of her environmental and social activism. Yamini is a certified domestic violence counselor and is working with Salini on Rewire Community COVID-19 Survival Relief Fund. So now you know, when I've given the introduction, these women are so important for our community. Welcome to Human Connection Show, and thank you for taking us this time out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isha.
Of course, I had to talk to you guys. Now, I was reading about you. First of all, if anyone wants to visit their website, it's rewirecommunity.org. So you guys started in 2012. Now you were already doing so much about, you were doing so much for domestic violence, people who are actually in the domestic violence, or you were doing so much about other things as well. So what more made you what was that thought? Okay, let's start Rewire Community. What was that one motivational factor? Anyone can start with this answer.
Well, first, Isha, thank you for the kind words and for inviting us here. It is really strange to be on this side of the conversation, asking the questions. Before I answer, I do want to acknowledge what Radio Zindagi is doing now. Using your platform to do a program like Human Connections is very applaudable. Giving us platform to do Jaagte Raho was another sign of the work Radio Zindagi is doing. So thank you for doing this and introducing us to so many stories of hope. We know we all need those.
Yeah.
As for Rewire, it was actually born from the belief in the power of a community and that we are greater than the sum of our parts. There is, of course, a personal story for each of us mingled in there, but it all led to us knowing that we wanted to create these, what we call circles of support around us. And as women, as immigrants, bringing our collective action together, we believe has created something powerful. What started as an online community to create spaces for empathic conversations eventually took form on the ground as community efforts, and one thing led to the next thing. And the more we connected with the stories around us, the more we learned and found the next thing to do. So one of the sayings I love is by Maya Angelou. She said, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. So it's been an evolution and a journey for us, for Rewire.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've seen such lovely pictures on your website, and it makes me wonder, these women, they would have thought one day, okay, let's start Rewire. And of course, within a year, you got so many other causes. And of course, now it has spread. in this time, Shalini, I know you've been very active with COVID-19 pandemic. This is such a crazy unknown times. Tell us about it, what you guys are doing, and what were your thoughts when this COVID came in?
Sure, Isha. First of all, thank you for having us here. Now, when, just like you said, it's a crazy time. Mm-hmm. And when this pandemic hit us, it hit us really hard. And before we could even grasp what's happening, we went into lockdown. Mm-hmm. And as individuals, as domestic violence advocates who work in crisis situations, we knew we have a huge crisis in hand. And that's literally when, Rewire Community, us, volunteers, friends of Rewire quickly came together that let's figure what we can do, and what we can do in a sustained, lasting, impactful way where the impact is real, it's meaningful, and it's defined by the survivors of domestic violence. And we were so fortunate that we got to work with 7 different domestic violence agencies literally across the Bay Area, where we could capture the real critical need of what is it the survivors are experiencing. What are survivors with families with little children experiencing? And that's when we very quickly, within days, with a lot of generous love that came to Rewire, we were able to launch the COVID-19 Relief Fund. Mm-hmm. So we were able to literally, for a sustained period of 2 months, provide assistance for essentials, personal essentials, essentials for the children, and let survivors define what those needs meant to them in that moment. Mm-hmm. And now we're in July, COVID-19 is still here. Yeah. It's still challenging us. There are so many unknowns, like you said, and without a pause, we're deep diving right into round 2 of our relief fund, where we want to reach out to even more survivors. We want to reach out to communities of color. We want to literally scale this impact with the community in a way where we're making real change, and we're making a change very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the color, you actually, not only COVID, but you guys are always there with the Black Lives Matter, with the Me Too movement, with the climate change. All of these are also very, very important. We should not forget that this can also become one of those things which nobody wants to go there. So the COVID has brought in so many things. Don't you think so? 2020 has actually made us realize, what are we doing? And what are we doing with our lives? Is there anything you want to do for the society, for the community? Don't you think so? It has made us just think, if not anything, it just, you sit at home and you just think about these things sometimes. That nature has really brought us a home, and, and like,
it has.
What have you done, people? Yeah. I always say this almost in my every interview. I wanted to ask you about this Black Lives Matter also, without going deep, because I know there are bigger issues. There are so much going on. What were your take on it? And I know what were your take on it. I mean to say, in the general bigger perception, like, what were you thinking when this was going on? What was Rewire Community thinking? And I want Yamini and Shani both to answer on this question.
Well, that's a great question. I think Rewire is us. So in our hearts, we know that we believe in equality, equity, human rights, collective rights. I mean, these are terms we stand for. So anytime we hear or learn or finally acknowledge and are made aware of something that does not meet any of those strong terminologies and words, we know that we have found an area where there's a gap and we need to take action. We need to galvanize whatever resources we have to either take action by ourselves, or at least continue bringing awareness such that those who may have more resources or who may have access to power are able to create change. So for us, we personally, I would say I would be guilty that it's not that the Black Lives Matter has come up for the first time, but I did not understand the gravity of the issue till very, very recently. I started learning more about the challenges that the people of color and other a lot of other groups face, marginalized groups face through my climate change work, because that's what climate justice talks about. It says climate change actually impacts people of color, especially Blacks, a lot more than any other community. It impacts LGBTQ plus group more. It impacts women more. So I was getting exposed to this, and it impacts them more because they are the ones who have less access to resources. The system is not set up to support them. So we were getting aware of that, and I'm glad that I wish it didn't take a 2020 to do that, finally to galvanize all of us. But I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad we are getting engaged a lot more. We will stand for anything where we believe freedom and equality and equity are questioned and challenged. And I think for us, a big learning is, what does equality and equity mean? And not defined by us who are coming from a different space, but defined by the people who are facing the challenge. They are the ones who tell us this is what we want, not us again coming together and saying, this is what we're going to do for you. So we hope that's where the conversation changes, that if we are able to build enough awareness, we are able to hand the power and the resources to those who can use it for themselves, instead of us again being people in control and saying, this is what is going to happen for you. So I hope that's where the narrative changes now.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Who are we to write things for them? It should be them who should be telling us that this is what we need and what we want. What's your take on that, Shalini?
Isha, as a community organizer, I have always believed in creating space for communities to take the lead. And even when we talk about Black Lives Matter, in absolute solidarity with the movement, this movement has created the greatest urgency for us to acknowledge our own privilege, our own power, and create a safe space for the community to take the lead and guide us through. And that's been my huge learning as a social worker, as an organizer, as an activist, that those voices in no way should be shadowed by any other noise around it. And for me, that's become that very important goal right now, that create ample space where, we can talk about these issues and we can let communities represent their issues and their voices without twisting or turning them in any way.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are obviously now educating themselves, like even I did. I'm sure a lot of us did, that what exactly is the cause, what is the problem, where it did start. It's just sad that it took a pandemic to keep, to make us all realize that, okay, this is actually a bigger issue. Coming down to one more question, I know that I've seen in Ganesh Utsav, which usually Radio Zindagi does, that you guys bring your skits and you do a lot of that street, Nukkad Natak kind of things as well. So Yamini, and you take immense pride in it, and I love it the way your youth theater is. You are so much about vocalizing, about putting that dialogue, generating thought-provoking dramas or skits, whatever you want to call it. So what do you think? So why are these initiatives so important for youth, and where do you want to take it ahead?
हम तो ड्रामा है भाई, अब क्या करें? Engaging with our youth is definitely something that's important, and we believe it's actually been transformational. Not just in our community, all over the world, you're seeing the younger folks initiate, lead, drive conversations and change really at the grassroots. They're seriously at the helm of it all. So as we engage as Rewire, we try to use different channels, creative ones, if I may, such as theater, music, dance, newsletters and others, to gather their voices and thoughts and find ways to create some direction and action. And honestly, again, they are truly the ones who are wanting to raise awareness around specific topics. And these are topics that are important to them. Their world has opened up to. It is so much bigger in the teen mind. I mean, it's definitely bigger than my world was at that age. And they're saying the same news as we are, issues that we are looking at. They are also sitting at home with us. They are away from their friends. Challenges, pain, trauma. They're seeing what their friends are experiencing and what other people of their own age are going through around the world. So I wish it wasn't so. I sometimes wonder if it is too much too soon. But since it's probably harder to shield a teenager from accessing the information, maybe we work more to see how to help them process that experience, acknowledge that they have their own journeys too. I think that's one of the feedback we always get from youth is they say, "Your children, what do you know?"
Yeah.
So to give them that platform and that space has been, hopefully, has been helpful. So from mental health to environment, bullying, microaggressions, macroaggressions, pride, racism, they have seen it all, and they are the ones who are bringing those conversations to the table. And our attempt is to channel, give a platform, build connections with them and the community, and maybe they can then create their own circles of support too. They are the adults of tomorrow. So some of them who will actually influence other minds. So hopefully we are able to give, and not just us, the community is able to give them tools to build a more open and compassionate community for themselves and their own future. So that's kind of one step at a time for us right now.
Right. And you know, one more thing which has now come up with when you talk about youth, you talk about mental health. Because earlier nobody used to even care about talking about what is mental health? Like people didn't even know. But now gladly things have changed. People, a lot of celebrities have also come, and a lot of things are happening right now also in the world where people have talked about mental health. Do you guys see anywhere in Rewire community where you take up that issue and, you know, you talk to youth, or is there anything which you guys do specially for the mental health issue?
We have done sessions.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We do have a person who joins us. We bring people who are, of course, trained professionals to talk about specific topics. And part of what Rewire does is being that resource platform, connecting the different folks together. So we have done topics around that. We also give the youth space to sometimes determine how best they want to express their journey. So on one side, we bring in the goal to bring in somebody to have a conversation is not to tell them, but to help them express, process, have a conversation, genuinely have a conversation and acknowledge that your thoughts are validated, that what you're thinking is, lack of a better term, let's validate that. And then the way they have expressed it has been, for example, through theater. They have expressed this through their writings. They express this right now through, they regularly meet. Our youth group is called Changemakers. They meet regularly and they're picking topics and saying, this is what is important for us today. Let's talk about it. Wow. So our focus is not only mental health, but we very much acknowledge it is a huge part of life, not just for youth, for adults, for everybody. And we hope that if we are able to normalize the conversation when they are young, then so much taboo and all that's associated with it will eventually fade away. And this would be something that we can address, just like we address a fever. We are able to openly address this with everybody. So that's another reason a lot of conversations start at the youth level. Like hopefully things get normalized and nothing is like, oh my God, that's not.
Yeah.
That's not about, or that it's not about us. It's not us, it's them. There's no us and them in this.
Yeah. It doesn't see anything, depression or mental health issues doesn't see or doesn't categorize by gender or anything. It can come to anybody. Absolutely. Anyhow. Yeah. So tell me another thing. You've done so many shows with us also. You've been working with Rewire Community for such a long time. Tell us your special project, anything very special close to your heart which you would like to discuss. I know I should have given you heads up on this.
That's a tough one. I honestly cannot answer that. I'm sorry. But I gotta say just that every project or initiative we've done kind of captures that moment in time for us, our personal journey, the journey of our community, that of our country. So what is happening around us? So we always build for what we believe would be important to create a healthy community, an empowered community. And that has meant different projects in different times. So whether it was basketball or yoga or a mental health awareness session or an empowerment dance with Radio Zindagi's Ganesh Puja, or even sending like sanitary pads to Kenya, which we used to do a few years ago. Every single project has been set with a very clear intent and heart, no exceptions. So I can't pick one that is closer to my heart because everything really meant right and clear and intentional when we did it.
It's like it's your baby right then, and then you take it forever.
Yeah. And there are days you want to, I have children. There are days I'm like, oh my God, this baby's driving me crazy. And but you never want to be without that one, that baby.
What about you, Shalini?
Just like Yamini, Isha, like it's so difficult to say that, one specific project is your favorite, because so much heart and just so much of your personal journey goes into the kind of work we do, why we're doing it, who we are doing it with. And so definitely it's not possible to pick on favorites, but I do have to say that in today's time, when you look at issues, there's such an intersectionality. Now, in a way, if you start questioning it, you'll find that all of these different issues in some way can connect back to each other.
Right.
And that for me, has opened me up in such a way that you can draw in the community who initially we would have thought that, oh no, maybe this is just for this particular group of people, or maybe this is just for another set of people and we can't have them mix. But these issues are connected, and especially this particular pandemic, COVID-19 has exposed all of those failures, all of those realities, and has also exposed that we're capable of a lot of hope. We're capable of a lot of change. So I'm like, now everything is connected. So can't pick on favorites, definitely.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like everything is interconnected, and sometimes you feel, oh, this happened, so this happened. And that's why this is happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in this very unknown, crazy time, a lot of people are also scared to come out and help, or a lot of people are just wondering, sitting at home, which is obviously not their fault also. But in this very unknown time, what advice would you like to give, and how important it is right now to extend your support to these communities, or to just voice your opinion, or if not opinion, just do something about it? So what is your advice on this? Anyone can start.
Sure. Isha, Yamini, I think it comes with an acknowledgement that these are exceptionally hard times. There is a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's so much going on in every individual's personal life. So in no way I feel like we undermine or undervalue that, but I also understand that communities are creators of wonder. And when we are able to come together as a community, we can get things done faster. We can really impact things in a very different, especially with a very different meaning. And we can do that faster than most systems can. There has been a systemic failure on different levels that was exposed during this pandemic. And at least today in 2020, we have many different platforms and many different avenues to come together. So whether it's digitally, whether it's in the online space, whether through friends and friends of friends, there are different ways that we can come together. I think it can start off with us just wanting to have that conversation, doing some research, asking ourselves, what is it that we care about? What is it that we want to be involved in?
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely urge everyone who's looking at where do I start, even if it's starting small, just come one step forward and trust me, you'll find us. Either we'll find you or you will find us. So even let's try and use the resources we have in a safe manner, and definitely understanding the realities and the situations right now, but making that effort for us as community members to be together in this.
Mm-hmm.
Isha, I have a saying which I really love, just to add to Shalini's. It's do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. And that's kind of keeps me going. And now more than ever, when it feels so isolating, let's bring that community back together. There are so many of us who do not have the privilege or luxury to have such an option. and we can do so much. So let's give into this impulse to be kind. Any impulse that we have to be kind, let's just give into that, because what we sow, we reap, and every person's action has an impact, whether it is by raising your voice, whether you are putting in your vote, whether you're staying silent when something happens. And that civic engagement is very, very valuable. So in a time like this, where we are all pretty much, there's a level of trauma for each individual, and let's acknowledge that everybody has their journey. You know, this is maybe a good time to come together. And like Shalini said, it doesn't mean engage, just like, we are not saying come and engage with Rewire. We are saying find your voice and find your path, but then don't pause. Like, go ahead. It doesn't mean you have to go full steam. Acknowledge your journey, stay safe, create your own self-care, but keep moving.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people would want to actually go and support you guys and want to be associated with you, because you guys are doing such a wonderful work. And again, if anyone wants to go and visit and know about them, go and visit rewirecommunity.org. How can they support you? How can they reach out to you? I know it's all on the website, but just if you guys can, tell us once again, it'll be great. How can people reach out to you for the support or involve with you in this crazy times?
Yeah, so I think what you said, the best way is to definitely go to our website. And if you're a young person, a youth, please go and check out the Changemakers page, get involved. The youth group is staying engaged through summer. You can directly reach out to the youth lead. There is there's some text number and all. The youth said that's how it works. I'm still figuring out so much of how their technology works, but directly the youth can get engaged. And Facebook, Rewire Community, and our website is the best way to reach out to us. We are, to Shalini's point, are running a COVID-19. We are kicking off our round 2 of it. We are expanding the reach. We are trying to also create, other than just providing economic relief to the survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, we are trying to expand and create survivor care kits that we are hoping the community can get more engaged in, whether through donation or making packets and all. So there's more information we are kind of pulling together. But if you go to our page, or if you write to admin@Rewire Community, or Yamini, and I'm definitely giving my email, yamini@rewirecommunity.org. As we built it, we would love to have people engaged as we build also. So it's more of not us handing something to the community, but all of us kind of creating it together that works for everybody. So website is honestly a good place to start, and we will get back pretty immediately.
Perfect. I have to ask you this question before we wrap up this interview for both of you. You guys have your own personal lives. You have families and kids and everything. How do you take out time for Rewire Community? Like, how do you take that mentally? You're like, okay, no, I have to take time for Rewire, because a lot of us are just in excuses only. So you have to tell us so that we are also motivated.
Wow. Shalini, you speak for you, but for us, like, I think it's a way of life now, Isha. I think there are days where we are taking time out of Rewire Community for home, family, and kids. Some days the balance is completely off, and then there are days where everything just flows back together. But what kind of keeps us a little grounded is knowing that the needs of the community do not pause for our convenience. So we are very focused with that. So that, and of course, having families and a team that really steps in and picks up on those off-balance days. We are not working in silos by any means. So maybe Rewire Community is now that family member that sits at the dining table with us. And there are days we have an argument, and there are days we don't.
Nice. Shalini, is that the same for you?
Isha, for me, along with Rewire Community, I'm also running, managing, volunteering on like a few other projects. And just like Yamini mentioned, it is a way of having my own purpose. And I've been doing that for a few years. I have my own routine around it. I try and, I try and shut off other things to give it my complete focus, because this pandemic has exposed the urgency where, I'm like, I can't pause right now. So let's create, pockets of space where we can take care of ourselves and create a routine around it, do my own research. So I sort of balance my day out in the way that, okay, I'm going to wrap up by 5 p.m. and after 5 p.m. it's going to be like taking care of myself and doing things that I like. So just finding your own ways of doing things, Isha. Like, I would really urge the community, don't stress yourself. Just do where your, like, go where your heart is, and you'll find your answers. And of course, come to Rewire Community, and we would definitely love to work with everyone who cares about all of these different issues, or if they want us to be focusing on something else. We're so open to that kind of feedback. We're so open to that sense of community that if there are other things that we should be also looking into, we're right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those people, for those who don't know, that Yamini and Sharni are sisters, and I have to ask you.
Shelja are sisters.
Oh, sorry, yeah. See, I always get confused.
She's a sister too.
You are a sister. You look,
Believe I are sisters.
you look similar. I was gonna ask that, do sisters like sit, and sometimes, obviously we all fight with our sisters, brothers and sisters. So does that come between any of you? I was going to ask that question. So that's why I, brought in this.
Should I talk about my sister when she's not on the...
Let's bring her on and then we'll talk about it. But no, seriously, this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much, guys. And we wanted to bring Rewire Community up front because you guys are doing such lovely, amazing work quietly also. And just not India, just not US, Nepal, Kenya. And it is a motivation. It is inspiring for all those who really wanted to do something, now can come and connect with you guys and can do more work. So thank you so much for coming and giving your precious time and talking to Radio Zindagi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isha, and thanks for all Radio Zindagi is doing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us here.
Of course. And you guys, you can go to rewirecommunity.org and you can find out pretty much everything on the website. Is very easy. You will find out their mission, you will find out what they're doing, you'll find out about where to contact them. If you want to donate something, you can do that as well. And of course, stay safe, wear a mask, and be happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.